Good morning, and thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning for H3 TV, where we bring hope, health, and happiness to you live every single Wednesday around our schedules and what works, but usually always on Wednesday. We created this program because we believed people were feeling hopeless, unhealthy, and unhappy. And I said, what could I do to jump into your office, into your home, and encourage you when you're struggling? And so we created H3 TV, where I come every Wednesday and I invite a guest to share how do they stay H3 in their life and in their workplace. So today my guest is Carol. And if you have any questions or comments throughout, feel free to ask us. Hey, Carol, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? Where do you live? What do you do?
Okay. Hi, I'm Carol Gebhardt. I live in Dubuque, Iowa, right on the beautiful Mississippi River in the Driftless area. And if you don't know what the Driftless area is, I highly encourage you to find out. It's fascinating. I am the executive director of Opening Doors. We are a nonprofit organization that serves women and children experiencing homelessness. And never dreamed I'd end up doing this kind of work, but definitely it turned out to be my dream job.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're doing it. And Carol and I know each other because I had the opportunity to speak for Opening Doors. So that was lovely to be together in that. Some other amazing things about Dubuque, Iowa is who graduated from there? What's that cute place?
Annie's personal favorite person, Tony Danza, graduated from the University of Dubuque.
I don't even know if he's my favorite person, but definitely a little bit of a crush, at least.
Well, yeah, your star crush.
My star crush, yeah. And then, isn't it fairly close to a movie? If you build it, they will come.
Yes. So about 30 miles west of Dubuque is Dyersville, Iowa, where the movie The Field of Dreams was filmed. And if you follow baseball at all, you know that that movie site has been kind of reincarnated, and Major League Baseball is now playing there once a year. We just hosted the Cubs and Reds this month, just a couple weeks ago. So it's brought a lot of excitement to our area, and we couldn't be more thrilled to show off our beautiful tri-state area.
I knew that. And so I wanted to share a little bit of that for those listeners that have never been to Dubuque, Iowa. It is quite a beautiful place. And as we think of Iowa being very flat, it's actually kind of rolling hills. And it was just beautiful to be there with you. So I look forward to coming back. But today I just wanted to talk about, Carol, what do you do personally to live what I call an H3 life, hopeful, healthy, and happy? What are 3 to 5 things you do daily or regularly to take care of yourself?
Okay, so I really was always very interested in health and wellness, always exercised, tried to eat right. Over the years, that has morphed into different things, right? I actually became a certified health coach about 6 years ago. And that really changed my life and opened me up to a lot more spiritual development as well. You know, mind body connection became very important to me. So I started delving more into that. And the bottom line is, I had to learn to love myself. And it was a journey and a bit of a struggle sometimes, forgiving myself for things. But I became an avid reader of mostly books that published through Hay House Publishing, and many great spiritual leaders there, especially their founders, Louise Hay. And I learned so much about how to take care of me, because I can't give from an empty cup. And now I work hard to keep my own cup full. I try to eat right. I exercise, not as much as I should, probably. And I have a lot of self-care daily, daily meditation. I do dry skin brushing, essential oils, herbal remedies. I go more to non-traditional medicine if I'm feeling off, whether it's my chiropractor, an herbalist, acupuncturist, something along that line. Because one thing I feel that today's the world we live in here in this country, we don't have health care, we have sick care. If something's wrong, doctors aren't necessarily seeking to cure you. They're seeking to get rid of your symptoms so that you're not so uncomfortable. Where I would prefer to go down the path of what's causing this issue in my body. There's an imbalance somewhere. So how can we bring my body back to balance and back to good health?
So I like what you're really talking about. I think, Carol, is, and I love when practitioners and wisdom teachers are teaching Western and Eastern medicine combined, right? Like it's not
Definitely.
even bad and good. It's like we need this balance. But one thing you said that none of my guests have said before, which I've been doing the show for over a year now, is you talked about
Dry skin brushing.
dry skin brushing. So I don't think we've heard about that before. So can you share with us what that is and how often you would do that to be healthy? If someone's curious and they're listening, tell me more. So
Sure. So you get a wooden handled natural bristle brush every morning before my shower.
oh,
I
every
take
morning.
it, I do, long strokes on your body, always towards your heart.
Oh,
Um,
good.
and then it really it's good for your skin. Obviously, it kind of does some exfoliating. It stimulates you. But the best thing that it does is it stimulates your lymphatic system. So all
Mm,
the drainage, your lymph system works so hard to rid your body of toxins
mm,
the way it's designed to be. But I focus on all this lymph here. So I brush down my neck, and then there's right along your collarbone. There's two spots there. So I even kind of take my brush and kind of tap on those. And that kind of stimulates that. And then, I do my whole body, but then you want to concentrate under your arms, your groin area, and then also behind your knees. Who knew
mm.
that there were a lot of lymph nodes behind your knees? So I tap back there too. So the goal is to get your whole body stimulating and get that lymph flowing because
Okay.
it does so much to keep us healthy.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That's a new thing and an interesting thing. And yes, there's so many little things that we can do that don't have to take hours, that can just
Yeah,
help our body. Help our
right.
body. I love that you remind us. I think sometimes it's easy to take our body for granted and just assume I'm going to get up and walk and talk and do all the things, but our body works really hard for us, and we, in order to maintain it, we need to say thank you, and we say thank you by doing little things to take care of it. So I love that. Carol, what do you think? Do you think that hope and happiness just happen in life, or is it a choice? Does it happen based on circumstances, or does it happen by chance? What do
I
you think?
think, I believe that hope is a choice.
Mm,
Anything that happens to us in our life, we choose how we deal with that emotionally, physically. Um, and, if you have the mindset that life happens to you, then that's a victim mentality. And bad things do happen to everyone, but it's all about how we take it and learn from it and move on. um, I've always been a life gives you lemons make lemonade kind of girl. You can find the positive in almost anything. And I focus on finding reasons to be grateful for the experience that was hurtful at the time. For example, and many of us have experienced a divorce,
mhm.
so it can be so rough emotionally, and then there's so many mixed emotions. But grateful for the life lessons learned, the things I learned about myself, the things I had to forgive myself for, and then learning again. What I really learned through going through my divorce was I have to love myself first. It's all about self love. And boy, when I started working on that, it is amazing how life changed. We come from sometimes our mindset can be there's only so much abundance in the world. And other people have it, not me. But that is so not true. Abundance is unlimited. We can all be living happy, successful lives. There's no reason that anyone has to stay down so we can be up.
Yeah.
And I know you believe that.
I do believe that. I do. And Carol, you said something on your first question and your second, and I think it's such an important thing for our listeners. You talked both times about forgiveness. And I think that forgiveness piece is a key before the self love, right? Because if we're still beating ourselves up, it's hard to have self love.
Right.
I watched a video last night that my friend Cheryl recommended. It said, "Why will you marry the wrong person?" And it's kind of funny and it's kind of serious, but basically it's saying, because everyone marries the wrong person because we expect that person to be a mind reader, and we expect that person to be our soulmate and to be perfect. But if we don't love ourselves, how can anyone else love us? We're all messy, complicated individuals. So there is no right person. You got to learn to like yourself and then like that other person with all their parts. So Eric is just saying, thank you, Carol, for your comments and your conversation. Great ideas. But you talked about self love, you talked about forgiveness. And so I just think those are such an important part of making that choice. Like some people say, well, it's easy for you. No, but I did the work before. I forgave myself for my broken pieces, for my mistakes. And for me, it's like an ongoing, right, Carol? Like I
Oh,
get through the
definitely.
day, dang it, what did I screw up today? Okay, forgive myself, start a new day, forgive other people, start a new day, and learn to like myself. My daughter was just texting and saying the most important love, as you said, is loving ourselves. We'll never attract a good, healthy relationship if we are not kind to ourselves first.
Right.
We do have some listeners, so if you have questions and comments, feel free to jump in at any point and write them in the chat box, and Carol and I will respond. But thanks, Eric, for listening and for your encouragement this morning. So what do you think the difference is, Carol, between being hopeful and being optimistic? And I want to know individually what you think that, but also when you're working with these women that they're really feeling in a difficult place in their life. They are homeless. Maybe they have some addiction or challenges or abuse they're escaping or self-abuse. So how do we get from hopeful and optimistic? How do we help them move back to hopeful when they're going through those challenges?
Right. And I think, our tagline for our organization, the name of our organization is Opening Doors, and our tagline is hope, healing, and home. And that's what we're striving to give. And often people we're serving will say, you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And for many, it's the first time in their life that they've experienced anyone believing in them. And just having that little tiny shred of someone saying, you can do this, is just so eye-opening and gives them hope for the first time, and shows them, hey, maybe I can do this. And then they start to look at themselves a little differently, because they've only ever heard the negative about themselves. So just planting that one little seed of hope can do so much for someone.
I love it. More H's, right? And as you're talking, I'm thinking about all these H's and I'm thinking homeless, hopeless, and hurting. And you turn it around and make it hopeful and healing and home. And as a woman that has experienced homelessness and hopelessness and hurting, I know how much that means. I know that having one person believe in you, and I think it, even before the belief, having one person even see you as who you are with all your messy and beautiful parts
Right.
and still say you have worth is enormous. So thank you for that. I really love it. Is there a difference between happiness and joy? What do you think?
Yeah, I believe that we can find great joy in but happiness again is a choice, because that's the long term. Happiness is, no matter what happens, I know I'll get through it. I'll find great joy in the small things. And I also believe that you can experience great joy if you've never experienced great pain, because
Mm,
it's all in the contrast.
yeah,
And, how do you know light if you don't know what dark is?
right.
So I really believe that. I read the book a while ago. The Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu
Mhm.
wrote a book called The Book of Joy. And
Mm,
it's just fascinating
mm,
how these two men who've experienced very different paths in life, imprisonment, the Dalai Lama has been banished from his own country for
mm.
decades now, and how they turned that into, what would seem to be the worst circumstance in your life, and still be able to find joy, talk about joy, and experience it in a very profound way.
And I think you're absolutely right. Without knowing darkness, we can't know light. But I think we also give respect to people that we know have had challenges and they are joy filled, and not just joy filled for themselves, but in a generous heart and in kind. I mean, I think all those things. I think that's why the Dalai Lama's has impacted so many lives. Is people know the hardness, people know the pain, and yet still not only just being happy and joyful, but being generous, right, and
Right.
kind. Um, so, Carol, we know that no matter how well we take care of ourselves and how hopeful, happy, and healthy we are, things slip into our lives. So, this is kind of a two-part question. What slips in that kind of steals that from you, and what do you do in that moment or in that season when pain does come to you? How do you turn it around?
Sure. So, we're all just doing the very best that we can. And we all have days where something happens and triggers us to go back to that I'm not good enough. I don't deserve. Uh, and so I think it's just realizing that's always going to happen to us, because we just can't fix ourselves and never have that again. I think, it'd be great if we could. There'd be great if that was the easy button, right?
Nothing will ever bother me. I'll
Yeah,
always be happy. It'll always be easy. Yeah.
exactly. But life's not like that. People we love pass away. We miss them. We go through great grief. There's just so many little things along our path. Our kids can be our greatest joy, but also maybe as a mom, I didn't do the right thing. Look what they're doing now. So, we have to, I think, just recognize that it is a journey. We're all on a journey. We're on the path, and sometimes we have to stop and make sure that we're not going back instead of forward, and reminding ourselves how to stay looking forward. And that's that whole, I'm doing the best I can. I forgive myself for the things that I maybe could have done differently. And I do remind my children too, they picked me. I didn't pick them. I don't know why they picked me, but I'm just, sometimes I'm going to say a hard thing and maybe you're not going to appreciate it, but I'm just doing the best I can and trying to be your mom.
That's awesome. I have a friend, Dr. Kate Nally, and we were talking about children and childhoods and parents. And she read me this beautiful book, which there's nothing I love more than to be read to, because reading's not easy for me, even to this day, but especially as a child. And it's about picking your parents. And this little angel's kind of saying his whole life's perfect, but he really wants to learn to forgive, but nobody ever hurts him. So he doesn't need to forgive anything. And he ends up with these parents, and like, they have all these lessons they teach him, kind of the happening for you, not to you mentality. But it's just a beautiful book about, we're here and we're learning lessons and we're teaching lessons. And that's kind of what all relationships are about. And so I think what I heard you say is, when you get stuck in, whether it's a pain because of a child or because life happens or because that self-doubt comes in, you do a couple things. You stop, you try to stop what you're thinking. You try to stop what you process. You think about your thinking. You think, what am I thinking of this? How can I make it better? You forgive yourself. You remind yourself to give self-love. So it's really going back to the basics of what some of your tools are that you use to not only be healthy for yourself, but to teach other people. Like, how do you do that? What are you hearing right now? What are you thinking? And what are we believing ultimately, right, Carol? Like, if we believe I'm screwed up, I screwed up, so I am a screw up, so I can't be good, so I can't, then we spiral. But if we go, wait a minute, that's just a thought. Maybe I didn't do the perfect thing. What do I do with that? And stop. I love that. I love reminding people, stop just for a moment and listen to what you're thinking and saying. Is that accurate? So when you are thinking about being hopeful about your future personally and professionally with the organization you work with, what are some things you're looking forward to? What are you looking forward to in life and with
Right. Well, retirement.
Ah, you're too young.
It's getting close, hopefully.
Okay.
And retirement can be, again, what you make it. And I don't plan to sit down and rest. I plan to be active in my community and still doing good in the world as much as I possibly can. I absolutely love this organization. I love what we're trying to do here and giving people hope and healing and a space to call home. And so that I'm so happy to be here and ride my career out here. And hopefully then, like I said, retirement is not too far into the future.
Really? You seem
Yeah.
a little too young, Carol, but that's not, and we can call it refirement, right? Like some people say, I'm moving from success to significance, or like you said, you're still going to be active in the community and maybe you're going to be out on adventures and whatever it is you're doing. I love that. And I think that when we know where we're going or we know what's next, having that hope and that vision helps us to like, hey, I can sustain the challenge. I can sustain the tired because I know I'm looking at the horizon. I always say the sun's coming out tomorrow. Like, I'm looking forward. So I like that. So you personally kind of talked a little bit about your health and what you do physically and emotionally to take care of yourself. I love that. But when we think about health, I like to think of 7 areas of health. And I'm going to describe them. Then I just want you to tell us, what do you love to teach, especially when women are in that painful part of transition of feeling hopeless and homeless? How can you transition them? So we talk about physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, financial health, relationship health, and career health. So, what area do you really try to focus on or have your team focus on to pour into the women? And maybe it's all of them, but are there one or two that really want to help the women?
Right. Well, I really strive to be a support for our staff who are social workers, and they are doing the hard work. I say I have the easy job, right? They have the hard job. They have to stay positive, working with people in trauma, lots of brain health. Obviously, we all know that that's a significant factor in homelessness. And so I try to teach them that they do have to care for themselves too, because it's a high burnout, potentially a very high burnout position.
Yeah.
They always take the successes they don't take any credit for, but anytime a client has a failure, a misstep, they blame themselves and say, oh, what could I have done differently? I should have done something differently. And that doesn't work for me. I won't let them go down that road. And I always say, but look at all the positives you've done. And even with this particular person in this moment that is so traumatic, because you're here, because you care, that is absorbed by the person. They may not be able to appreciate it at the moment, but you definitely know that you've impacted people positively. So I really care about that deeply and I try to do that in my own personal life, try to take any little interaction and be as positive as you can. Sometimes you're in line at the grocery store and you just need to get out of there, but you're just trying to take the pause and it is what it is. And smiling at the cashier who's overworked and stressed out and frazzled and just got yelled at by someone. And, one little smile, one little kind word can make such a difference to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm reading a book and a workbook goes with it. It's called Switch on Your Brain. And it's so powerful how much influence our thinking has. I've always known it, but as I go through this, it's like such a good reminder. And there's a workbook with it. And I just think for the women, like, what a great thing to think about, every thought, and how come we take credit for the negative, but never for the positive. Right. Or when it works, you're not supposed to say, look at my kids, they're amazing. Look at my clients, they're amazing. You're supposed to say, oh, did I mess up here? So it's interesting. So Carol, I always like to do a myth buster. So there's so many confusing things about health. And as a gym owner for 12 years, people focus so much on physical health. And I was like, yes, and there's so many more components. We're one body and we're affected by our finances and our relationships. So is there a myth about health, something that you hear people say that you wish they didn't think, or is a misnomer, or whatever it is? Is there anything about health that you'd like to tell us, nah, that's not really true, or you don't have to be so hard on yourself, or you don't have to be so perfect, or whatever it is?
Right. Well, I think one of the biggest myths is that there's one magical diet program out there that, I think, well, number one, we have this myth that we all have to be, a body weight of less than 20% or whatever, whatever society tells us is perfection in the male or female form. We always hear, don't eat this, don't eat that. I think the thing that I feel so passionately about is that there's no one right methodology, diet, program for everyone, because we are all individuals and no one else is like us. And we just need to find what feeds our soul, what feeds our health. For me, that I might need to eat red meat, and you might be shocked that anyone would eat red meat. For me, it might be I need to be vegan, and there's a whole lot of people that think vegans are crazy people, so I think it's just figuring out for you and your body what works, and trusting your body and not trusting a magazine or a television to tell you what your body needs.
Yeah. I think that's important, which I think, again, circles back to the very beginning, Carol, loving ourselves, liking ourselves, listening to ourselves. I had lunch, 2 different groups, and I went to lunch with 2 different groups of people. And at one, a woman talked for 10 minutes about her diet she was on during the whole lunch. And I was watching the men watch her, and I was thinking, I don't the guys talk about their diet and what they can. And then the next lunch, the woman went on and on to the waitress. She had to order this, but she couldn't order this. And I thought she had a food allergy, but she's like, I want to be skinny and I want to be in skinny jeans. And I was like, oh, wow. Like that's heavy for me. I'm like, the inside matters. And you're sitting around a table. We have somebody listening in from India right now. They're saying hello to you, Carol. And so there's all these stories. And I think the story is what is right for you that doesn't feel abusive and shaming and is about kindness. And yes, don't judge other people. I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter in particular, I said, man, my body is just like screaming at me. And the doctor said, listen, it's always talking to you. Just most people are busy. And I remember I like 10 at night, I'd need a steak. I just needed iron, or I'd eat like 2 cans of peas or 2 bags of frozen peas. And just listen to your body. It's always telling us, I need to sit, I need movement, I need vitamins, I need this. And so being kind. So that is so important.
And loving that body, you know, you got to love the body you're in. Look at what your body does for you every day. You have to love it. You don't always treat it very nicely, and you don't always say nice things about it. And so, you know, your body feels that negative energy. So, you know, you got to love yourself, all of yourself, who you are, every bit of you.
There is this woman that I tell everyone she's my new best friend. Her name's Shelly, spelled CSCHELLEA. She's 50 and fabulous, workouts on YouTube. And she's so much about, okay, stop right now. Thank your body. Your body's standing up. Your body's moving its fingers. Like she's like a motivational workout. And she has these little snippet videos, but she's so much about gratitude for our body and not judging our body. And whether you weigh 400 pounds or you're 90 or you're this, you're that, like, how do we do that, Carol? And so I just think that's really good. Is there any success story from your organization of something you're really proud of being part of? And I do appreciate you giving kudos to the people that are hands-on, because your position is more support the staff and the staff is more support the individual. Is that correct?
Right.
So
Definitely.
do you have a story of some time that you were able to help someone move from hurting and homeless and unhealthy to hopeful and home and happy? That you
Sure. You know, we have many stories to share, and we do an annual gala, our big fundraiser for the year. And we always invite 1 or 2 of our residents to come and speak in that. And it is so powerful to hear from a woman who was literally homeless to where they are now, and share their journey. And it takes such courage. It takes such courage to do that. And I admire them so much. One of our favorite residents, you know, she just had the personality where this woman was born to be. Put her in front of an audience, man, and she ate it up, and she was working the crowd. And it was so awesome because she found self-worth, and she was in her late 50s when she came to us, and she never dreamed she would end up homeless. That happened to other people, not her, you know, and things happened in her life and circumstances, and she was at her lowest of the lows when she came to us. And actually, when the first time she came to us, she was, I had a chip on my shoulder. She said, I didn't accept that I needed help. I thought I could do it on my own. And she left. And a few months later, she realized, hey, you know what? This isn't working so well. Maybe I do need some help. And by allowing someone to help her, you know, she went on and she saved a bunch of money. She was able to relocate. She wanted to be back by her daughter. They reconnected, you know, built that relationship back because she was then in a better place. So that's one of our great success stories. In fact, you know, it had an interesting sequel to it. So we thought all was well. And all of a sudden we got a call one day and she said, you know what? I love my daughter, but I realize I can love her from a distance, and I don't love where I'm living. And I want to come back to Dubuque. Can I come back? And of course, so she came back, stayed for a while till she, you know, got a job, got an apartment. And now she is actually working at a low income housing as a manager, a facility. And, you know, talk about full circle. She's now helping people find safe, affordable housing in her building. And she's a mentor to the residents of her building. And it's a great story. In fact, on our website, which I will put in the comments, we have a video that features some past residents, and she's one of them. You'll be able to pick her out right away.
I love that. And I love when it goes full circle. So I always think it's good to get whole, it's good to have healing. But to me, the most successful stories is when it's full circle, that you get some healing, not that we're ever fully healed, and then you get to give back to someone else who's hurting. And I think that's the most beautiful thing to me. I love when people are like, hey, I did this and this, and guess what? Now I'm helping other people that are struggling. So super beautiful. So Carol, we're going to close out here. But before we do, if people want to hear more about opening doors or about you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I will give you our website, which is www.openingdoorsdbq.org. And you can reach out to me via email through the site. You can learn about our organization, see our success stories, and I'd love to connect with anyone.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Carol. And thanks for all of our listeners today. I'll have Carol leave some more contact information in the comments so that it makes it easy to reach out to her. But we thank you for tuning in every Wednesday for H3 Cultures, where we spread hope, health, and healing to you individually so you can bring it to your workplace. Thanks for being with me, Carol. Have a great week.
Thank you, Annie. Bye-bye.